Welcome to my workshop, Teaching Safety Skills to Your Special Needs Child by Penny Rogers. Me. Yay. So let's talk about why we want to teach safety skills. A lot of children will automatically, neurotypical children will get a lot of these safety skills automatically because of the way our special needs children's brains are wired, or because of their just the way they are. Sometimes they don't get the safety skills automatically because they have executive functioning deficits or working memory lapses. Things like that will make it so that your special needs child doesn't understand safety skills. And it's important that you teach safety skills. So, one, everything your child can do for themselves means that they don't have to rely on someone else to get it done, which keeps them safe. Let's just say that out loud. Not everybody wants the best for our children. So, the more we teach them, the better and safer they are. Also, the more they can do for themselves, the more purpose and meaning they find in their life. So nobody wants to feel like they're a burden on anyone. And just because your child has special needs doesn't mean that they won't feel that way. So by encouraging them to do safety skills or to learn life skills, you also encourage them to take control of their life. And everybody wants to be in control. So safety skills are life skills, or they can involve teaching them to walk together instead of eloping. Um, it's not replacing any action that you need to take to keep your child safe, like putting up door alarms or putting a safety gate by the stairs, or taking the knobs off the stove so that they can't turn on the stove, or them needing a special safety knife or scissors. So while you're teaching the safety skills, they don't replace safety actions. Eventually, they will replace safety actions, but not yet, not when you first start. So, we want to teach safety skills to our kids so that they can find more purpose and meaning in their life and they can do more for themselves, but also to keep them safe. If you have an eloper who, as soon as you get out of the car, runs across the parking lot like I did, then that's not safe. For a long time, there's a 5-year difference between my autistic son and his sister. I could not go out with just the two of them by myself, because as soon as I opened the door, if I did not have my hand on Logan, he was off. Like, oof, so fast. But I couldn't keep my hand on Logan and get Madison's car seat out of the car. So the safety plan in place was that I didn't go anywhere with both children by myself. I could go with one child, but I had to find a babysitter for the other. It was easier to find a babysitter for the baby and just take Logan with me sometimes. Sometimes it was easier to take the baby and see if I couldn't find someone or leave Logan home with his dad. So we want to take an active role in teaching safety skills because that improves not only your child's quality of life, but also your quality of life. And if everybody's, living their best life, then the entire family benefits from that. So let's talk about what actually counts as a safety skill, and and when should you teach them? You should start immediately. Certainly, you can start teaching whether they're small children, or even if they're teens and young adults, even older adults. You should be teaching safety. If you see a safety issue, you should teach a safety skill for it. Age really, really doesn't matter. So, and we already talked about what counts as a safety skill. I always say life skills are safety skills, but safety skills, of course, are also teaching them to stay in the car when it's moving, or if they're in a wheelchair, it's making sure that they know they can't go down that hill without assistance, or they might need to have someone open the door, or teaching them how to open the door themselves. So Safety skills can vary from child to child based on their need, but you should be teaching them definitely. So first, before you teach safety skills, you have to know their developmental age. This is not in order to infantilize them. A lot of ableist people will talk to our kids like they are 5 just because they have a disability or a special need. That's not what I'm talking about here. We always presume competence at their age level and then scaffold as necessary to make them successful. So, in order to do that, you have to know their developmental age because we can't expect them to understand appropriate safety skills if they haven't fully developed the higher levels thinking skills yet. So, if you don't put the foundation in, then you can't expect them to be age appropriate. So again, I'm not saying speak to your child like they're a baby or that they can't do it because they have a special need, but I am saying learn their developmental age so that you know how to scaffold or how to put in place things to help them be successful. Now there are myriad of ways to learn their developmental age. And I'll put in the comments a link to my post on how to find their developmental age. But you can play with them. You can ask their therapist what they think. You can, normally, it's whatever age they tend to gravitate to when they're playing with others. You can, for example, if your child is 7 and he still likes Paw Patrol and Blue's Clues, I love Blue's Clues. He's probably preschool age, even though he's chronologically 7. If your TV is the best way I've ever found to do this. CDC.gov does have a developmental checklist, and you can kind of go through and see what your child can and can't do. And then 80% of the age, if he could do 80% of that age, then he's that age. But a lot of times TV works really well for me because if your 10-year-old has just, is watching iCarly, I'm showing my age here because I don't know any of the new Nickelodeon shows, but then, they're getting there. That's what they should be. They should be moving out of cartoons to, shows that they like, live action shows. I personally am 50 years old. I still like cartoons, but that's how you find their developmental age. And then you use that because if he's 7, and he is developmentally a preschooler, then you would scaffold something a 7-year-old needs to do until a preschooler can do it. So if he's 7, but really developmentally he's 4, then if you're asking him to take the trash out, you would expect him to take the trash out at a level that a preschooler would do it. And you would make sure, like, you would pull the trash bag out and you would carry it out with him. And then, you would walk back in, things like that. So knowing their developmental age is pretty important when you're doing safety skills because you have to fix that executive function skills and the working memory lapses. And the only way to do that is to take them where they are and to keep working on it slowly but surely. Even slow progress is still progress. So we don't neglect teaching safety skills regardless of age, academic or developmental levels. We teach at any age because again, life skills are safety skills, and there are unscrupulous people in this world. So we want to make sure that our kids are safe, and we want to make sure they're not going to like burn down the house or run across the parking lot or jump into moving traffic. So all of those things are pretty important. So there is always, forgive the pause, there is always a time or a safety skill that your child should be learning. So remember, I said life skills are safety skills. They really, really, really are. Teaching our kids basic skills keeps them safe from people. People sometimes aren't nice. So teaching your girl hygiene skills keeps her safe from predators. Money skills keeps them safe from people who are going to steal their money. I have a dear friend. She's my bestie. She's my BFF. She has a sister who has not Down syndrome, but some sort of chromosomal thing where she never aged. She never got older than like 11 years old. She's like 40, but developmentally, she's like 11. So she dropped her off at the mall one day, thinking everything was fine. And Lisa ran into some friends of hers that, but she didn't know how to, they went shopping. She didn't know how to check out. So the friends checked her out, except they put their purchases in with hers. And at the end of the day, all of Lisa's money was gone because she didn't know how to check out. So it's important that you teach hygiene skills for obvious reasons, but money skills so that they know how to, if you can, so that they know they don't get cheated. Public behavioral skills, I know sounds like kind of crazy, but it's the skills that are required of you while you're in public. So I'm not saying you should teach your special needs child how to mask or how to not stim. We don't stop stims unless they're about to hurt other people or they're inappropriate in public. But there are just some things people in public expect of you. For example, they expect you to be quiet in a library. They expect you to I wish they'd expect you to put your cart away in the parking lot because that is so annoying. But just skills like that. When someone says hi to you, they expect you to say hi back. Just, some public skills. If everybody's sitting down, I expect you to be sitting down. Those aren't as important as hygiene and money skills, but they're certainly something you can work on. Of course, cooking skills means your child's not going to starve to death. There was a time that I sent one of my children with my mother. That was a bad move right there. But she stopped and got food for her and my nephew that my child couldn't eat because of their food allergies. And then they went back to her house. And then at the end of the day, that child didn't eat because he didn't know like how to make a sandwich or how to articulate that he was hungry to this grandparent. So it was important after that event happened that we worked on that. The money skill thing is great. We went to a football game. He didn't get his Coke or his hot dog because he didn't know how to take the ticket up. He didn't know where it was. He didn't know how to find it. And I wouldn't have expected him to do it either based on his current developmental level, but no one he was with helped him. So, yeah, people are going to be like that. They're going to be mean and they're not going to help your child. So, having your child work on some life skills will improve their quality of life. And we always want our child to have a good quality of life. Like, it doesn't matter the special needs or not. We just, as parents, that's what we want for our children. So, all skills help keep your child safe and independent. They give them a sense of independence by learning it. So, a safe child is a semi independent child because if you don't have to worry about safety, you can go ahead and worry about other things. So, that you can work on with them. I don't have to worry about Logan bolting off and drowning in the lake anymore. So now we can work on how to interact with other people, what to do when we get hot, how to not tell people they look bad in that swimsuit, things like that. So, all skills, no matter what you're working on, are important for your child. So you can't just start though with the abstract skills of telling people that they look terrible in their bathing suits. That's a much higher level executive functioning than you normally start with. So we start with manipulative mode because the higher level skills aren't going to happen until you put that foundation in. So you need your child to be able to reference whoever they're with, their current caregiver, mom, dad, teacher, OT, whatever, or who, if they're with their friend, you need them to be able to look around and see where the group is or see where the people are so that they know that they're supposed to stay in that area, or they don't go near the fence where the alligator's hanging out because no one's over there. because there's an alligator hanging out. So, teaching your child to reference those around him helps him build his safety skills, and his executive functioning skills. So, also teaching him to stay with that person or that group and not just run off to something he sees. Now, if you have a sensory seeker, their impulse control is zero to none. So you literally have to teach this skill of, if the family is over here by the swings, you have to stay in the area of the swings, because I don't know if it's safe over there and you aren't going to look. You don't know either. So that's in manipulative mode, which is what the foundational skills are called. You want to teach them how to stay with their person or their group. That happens automatically as they learn to reference their person. So those two go hand in hand. You also have to teach nonverbal communication. It's these two go hand in hand, nonverbal communication and staying observant of their surroundings. So if they're not observant of their surroundings, then they won't know if a rattlesnake has come up because they're too busy looking at the clouds. So you want to make sure that they know to keep an eye out around them, especially if you're out in nature. Or, you just, when you're walking through the parking lot, you need to make sure you're aware of what's happening, especially if you have a female child. Let's be honest. Um, Women need to be aware of what's happening in parking lots, who they're getting into elevators with, things like that. It's just the current state of our world. So staying observant of those surroundings goes with nonverbal communication. And when I say nonverbal communication, I mean, like, if you need your kid to go to the left a little bit, or look a certain direction, and you nod your head like that, that's nonverbal communication. You have to teach that to your child. They're not going to get the social cue of a wink or nodding their head, or things like that. So what you do here, because you're in manipulative mode, is that you start, you have to spotlight it in order for them to learn it, if that makes sense. So one of the things we do is that we self-talk, which is we talk out loud, and I tell him what I'm thinking in my head, so that he knows, he can see the thought process. So one of the early steps is co-regulation and coordinating their self with what's happening around them. The safety rule is the summary of doing all that. So when they achieve the safety rule, then they've done that. But it's much less about the rule than it is about teaching them nonverbal communication. You can't dry practice it, because the outcome changes. So your child needs to learn to co-regulate his actions with your actions. That's why you need them to reference you. That's why you need them to see nonverbal communication happening with you, so that they know to come here when you want them to come here, and you don't have to yell it across the street. So things like that. Um, you need to spotlight connections. We've been talking about manipulative mode for a while, but we're spotlighting the connections so that they can see it, because they're not going to get mental and abstract mode until they achieve manipulative mode. Now, a great example of this was told to me by my daughter. In the Terminator, where they say something to the Terminator, and he then you see it from his point of view, and it's like, A, do this, B, do this, C, do this, and he has to pick from the list. A lot of times, that's what our kids, who they have executive functioning deficits, or working memory lapses, that's what they do. They see you say, go sit over there, and so they have to, A, I look to see where she's pointing. B, I maybe I go sit, maybe I if I yeah, I don't know. C, completely ignore. And so you're going to have to work on those. Your goal is for them to think, hey, boom, I'm going to go over and sit down. But if I just point where to sit, he has to get the nonverbal communication of, I need to follow her finger to tell her where to sit. Now, lots of special needs kids who have these deficits like for you to just tell them outright what to do. I want you to go sit on that chair next to Billy and not move. But it's important that they learn nonverbal communication and the social cues, because not everybody's going to cater to that need. So that's why you work on it. And sometimes the words aren't going to come out fast enough for you to get them safe, but you clapping your hands is going to get them to look up and see what you want, and that's going to get them safe. So that's why we want to spotlight the connections and really work on that with our children. So they're going to co-regulate with mom. They are going to reference mom. They're going to learn some nonverbal communication. Now, you're not just going to throw your kid out there into an unsafe situation and hopes they make it. So when you first start working on safety skills, or you first start working on co-regulation and coordinating in manipulative mode, then you're going to be by their side the whole time. You assume that they aren't safe. You probably already know that. And you become their adult guide and show them how you work through this situation to be safe. You show them how to be observant around them. You That's where self-talk comes out. You just describe what's around you. Now, if you don't feel ridiculous while self-talking, you're doing it wrong. Every thought that comes into your head, you have to say out loud. Like, sometimes we just go through this whole list of things like the Terminator, but we don't say that out loud. So if I'm at a red light and I'm in the wrong lane, I would self talk and be like, well, I'm in the wrong lane. I made a wrong choice. So should I hold up traffic behind me by turning on my blinker and waiting for an opening? Should I just miss the turn and go forward and, make a U-turn and come back? Should I not go that direction? And we don't need to go to the grocery store anyway. Groceries are overrated. So I say that out loud so that he can see how the decision making process works. That's what I mean by self-talk and talking about your surroundings. Again, if you don't feel ridiculous, you're doing it wrong. You really, when you first start, like, you feel ridiculous, but it's okay because it really, really, really works. Because you're working on co-regulation and referencing you could do a walk around the block or walk wherever and just vary your pace. And that's where you just, you walk faster and see if he references that you're walking faster, and adjust. Or you can start walking really slow and adjust. Does he adjust? Or you stop and look at an ant on the ground to see if they stop, to see what you're looking at. That's how you practice the nonverbal communication part and observance all the way at the same time. You're working on all three right there. You could carry something together, move the kitchen table so you can sweep under it. With you at one end, him at the other. Carry the laundry basket, carry a bucket of water. Just you spotlight the connection as you do something together, because it's when you spotlight the connection, you remind him that it's better to do stuff together and to reference the people around him. But you can't just assume he has that and just, run like the wind. The laundry basket, the bucket, the table all become a visible, tangible connection between the two of you. So when you first start, he can reference you because you're both carrying the same laundry basket. So if you go faster, he's going to go faster. If you stop, he's going to stop because the laundry basket stops. Does that make sense? So that's how you spotlight connection. You got to keep doing that and doing that and doing that until you think he's made the connection I wait until I can see him, till we till we can go on a walk and he references me. If I stop to look at something, he'll stop. If I walk faster, he'll match my pace, things like that. That's when you know you're at the end of manipulative mode and ready to move on to abstract. So it can be really disheartening when you start working on safety skills if your child is severely lacking in them. It was a little disheartening that at 5 years old we could not leave Logan out in a social gathering without Michael or I having, tag teaming, having having eyes on him. Um, it's okay. Progress is still progress, no matter how slow. Sometimes you got to go backwards before you can go forward. You can't do abstract and mental mode till you do manipulative mode. And it can be a little hard, especially if your child's older, to go back to manipulative mode. But you'll never regret time spent working on those safety skills. I don't even think twice about it now. Like, Logan's probably my safest kid. So it really, really, really worked out that we worked on those, if that makes sense. So don't think that because he's creeping along and not making the gains you think, and you've been in manipulative mode, self-talking ridiculously for, a year, that he's not going to get it. He's going to get it. At one point, all of the work you have been doing is going to sort of fall into place, and he's going to make a giant developmental leap into abstract or mental mode, and you'll be like, whoa, what? But you have to keep plugging along. Remember that life skills are safety skills, and even if you only teach one skill a year, it's still one skill more that your child has, because let's face it, we're not going to live forever. I know, right? And your child's probably going to have to live on this earth without you, in maybe a group home, maybe with family. Maybe they're eventually going to be independent, but at some point they're going to be away from you. And you want to make sure they're safe, even when they're away from you. So make it your mantra that life skills are safety skills and progress is still progress, no matter how slow. Thanks for joining me today. I am the author of several blogs. You can see them right here. We live in autism land, so we deal with autism, we deal with dyscalculia, we deal with some chromosomal deficiencies, so things like that. I know special needs. You can join us at any of our social channels. We would love to see you, and thanks for coming.